right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is the third week of bowl week. We are talking about the New Year's Six, the big-time matchups, the games that actually mean something. Well, they're still meaningless bowl games, but at least they're better than some of the matchups we had earlier. And I'm joined by my co-host, the man who will make breakfast starting at 11:59 on New Year's Eve so he can give that New Year's toast. My co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing?
Hey, depending on the day's going, you might need that toast to sort of soak up the beverages from the previous few minutes of the day. So it's always good to have breakfast ready to go, conserved at any time of the day.
Yeah, for those of you listening who don't know, Fresh is actually a very good cook. So if any of the 1% of our listening that is female and single, hey, the guy can cook. The guy can cook. He's a fantastic breakfast cook. When we were in college, he made a lot of breakfasts. I think that's the plural of that, breakfasts.
More like brunches by the time we actually woke up, but yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't just like cold cereal and milk. This kid can make biscuits and gravy too. So, all right, Fresh, let's move into the matchups already. These are some of the more fun matchups. I like these matchups a little bit better. Some stuff that we can really talk about. Let's start in Orlando, Florida, no matter what. Let's go to the Cheez-It Bowl. Not the bowl sponsored by the Cheez-Its, but this is the actual Cheez-Its Bowl. So there's two different bowls that Cheez-Its is involved with. I don't know. I love Cheez-Its. You love Cheez-Its. We all love Cheez-Its. But we're going to Orlando, Florida. This one is at 5:30. This is Oklahoma versus Florida State. At the time of record, Florida State is a 9-point favorite in this game. Over-under is set at 65.5. The best thing about this here, Fresh, Jordan Travis playing in the game. Love it. He's coming back to Florida State. Dylan Gabriel playing in the game. Great. Gives Oklahoma a chance. I'm excited about this game because while this is like, I wish we could have had this game of the teams about 2 decades ago, of the early 90s, which would have been much more entertaining. We don't get that. Don't got a time machine. Can't go back in time. But I do have current time right now. This is going to be a good one. But I'll throw it over to you here and let you kind of roll with this one first before I get rolling.
Well, I think it's really great that we have two named solid power programs facing off in this matchup, but there's actually a lot to play for in building trends for the future. But the first funny part of the whole situation here is that you mentioned the Cheez-It Bowl. So there is the Cheez-It Bowl, and I think they're actually doing, like, Cheez-It has a whole sponsor of like a hotel room all in Cheez-It. If you look it up online on Twitter, it's all there. But then there's also the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl on January 2nd between LSU and Purdue. Now, the funny part is Florida State's playing in the stadium in the Cheez-It Bowl. LSU is playing on January 2nd in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, and then both play each other in the exact same stadium and Labor Day weekend to kick off next season. So both are playing in the Cheez-It Bowl now, playing each other in the season opener next year. It's a weird kind of dynamic that all played out in Orlando, in the world, happiest place on earth. But it's a cool little side, item there for the entire football game. When I looked at it, to start off, Florida State coming off probably one of their best seasons since their college playoff 13-14 sort of run there at the end of the BCS and the beginning of the college football playoff. They've kind of tailed off from there. This is kind of a resurgent back. Is it a one-year thing? Is it building a program that finally Mike Norvell is able to generate talent and bring it year over year? We're going to find out, because this is a capping off of one season and a springboard into 2023. And you're playing a named opponent. You're not playing Eastern Michigan or Southwest Missouri State University or whoever. You're playing Oklahoma. You're playing a blue blood, a brand, a big name. And it's going to, whether people say, oh, they were 6-6 or not, you're still beating a powerhouse in name and brand perspective. And that is something to sell to recruits in today's National Signing Day, early signing period. Something to sell for the fan energy going forward. This is a big deal for Florida State and Mike Norvell. And maybe outside the LSU game, outside of beating Florida, maybe your third biggest game of the year. Maybe fourth, could you Clemson in there? But this is a big deal for Florida State. If you can cap it off, beat Oklahoma, and ride that off into the spring, that's a huge item that finally will maybe get some sort of doubt off of Mike Norvell. There's definitely a contingent out there that don't fully trust him, that they think this is a 1 year thing, that they got lucky versus LSU. They're not exactly fully there. I don't necessarily believe that to be fully true, and it's because of Jordan Travis, the quarterback. If he wasn't coming back and playing this football game, I would still think maybe there's some doubt. But the kid is an athlete, and he is the dynamic playmaker. If you even watched that Sunshine State showdown between Florida and Florida State on Thanksgiving weekend, he was a one-man wrecking crew. He threw it, he ran it, he did everything, and that was just, for most people probably didn't know that because they hadn't watched him up to that point. He'd been doing that all year, and he was actually the kind of the playmaker of the year before. So he's the key for this bowl game success and going forward in the future for Florida State, even if it is one more year, giving another bridge year, giving more talent to arrive. They had a top 20 recruiting class coming year, depending on which portal or group you look at. So it's a solid class coming in. They brought some guys into the transfer portal. So the future is there for 23 and beyond. But this is a great way to cap this season. Oklahoma on the other side, Brent Venables, maybe not the greatest year what he sort of thought he was going to have returning. You finished 6-6. You had some ups, you had some downs. But there's nobody that would know Florida State better, and Mike Norvell and maybe even Jordan Travis better than him. He's coached against him in 2020 and 2021. Jordan Travis is on campus in 2019, so he kind of understands what it takes to beat Florida State. Having Dylan Gabriel back in Orlando when he was at UCF and had his first couple of run there is a nice little homecoming for him and a chance to showcase. You have some talent, but also you have the pride of a program. This is Oklahoma. This is Boomer Sooner. This is not just a team that's happy to be there. This is a team we're prideful, and we have a chance of, we are who we are. We're going to come in. We're going to show up. And you kind of look at the way that the season went for them. They lost 3 of their last 4, but all 3 of those losses were by 3 points. This team could be a 9-win team for all we know. Yeah, they got thumped by Texas, but they played pretty tough down the stretch. They just didn't have that playmakers. They didn't have the last fourth quarter effort to get over the hump. You give yourself 3-4 weeks to practice. All you have to focus on is one game. You got guys who want to be there who haven't entered in the transfer portal, maybe guys finishing out their career, guys even looking for playing time in the future under Venables' regime. This is a big opportunity for them to showcase what they have. Crazy things happen in bowl games, but why you look for the reason why. Why are you there? You have 2 teams who are both very, I think, happy to be there. They want to play. They have enough incentive to produce on the field. I think we're going to get a great football game. If you had to ask me which team has more to lose, I think Florida State has more to lose. If they lose this football game, then people are going to start raising doubt in that program. You went through the ACC. Maybe it was an up and down season, maybe not the great, but you let a 6-6 team from the Big 12 show up and beat you in Orlando, in your home state. That's a big statement right there. Well, I think Florida State has more to lose. Oklahoma has nothing to lose from this football game. They can only gain positive momentum. So I think we're going to see a very spirited effort in Orlando on the 29th. But in the end, I just think Jordan Travis is the difference maker. He has some weapons around him. Guys are going to buy into him. And he kind of has that swagger feel that you would hope to see from a quarterback, that everyone looks to that quarterback for leadership. He's there. I think he has more energy with him right now. Gabriel and Mims and that offense still trying to find themselves in that Venable defense. They might bring some creative looks in this football game. I think Jordan Travis does just enough to get a Florida State a win. I think they win 27-21. This will actually might go down as one of the top maybe 8, top 5 bowl games of the entire season, because I think there's just so much to play for from both sides.
All right, Fresh. So I thought about this, and I was thinking more and more about what this game means for both Florida State and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, to me, going 6-6 on this year, Dylan Gabriel went down at the end of, I want to say it was either end of September or early the first weekend of October. Off the top of my head, I don't know which one it was. And the team was never the same once he went down for the year. It's kind of like became like this albatross that they started carrying on them. He transfers in from UCF. He's going back to a stadium that he's very comfortable at. He has 33 touchdowns in Orlando, Florida. When he was at UCF, he had 33 touchdowns there. He actually was a better road quarterback for his sophomore year than he was a home quarterback. I really like that factor. As you said, it was kind of like a homecoming for them. Oh, so the only question I have for Oklahoma is how they're going to replace Eric Gray. Eric Gray has opted out of this bowl game. Are they going to rely more on Javante Barnes? Is Gabriel going to have to use his legs? Is Marcus Major going to do something in this game? Who's going to be the running back to step up for the Sooners. As for Florida State, it's kind of like that capping off of this season. Can you get to that 10-win spot? If you get to the 10-win spot for this year, if you go in and beat Oklahoma, I don't care that Oklahoma is 6-6. I got to give credit. My dad called it right because I think we were at the Browns preseason game against Jacksonville. He's like, I got Oklahoma at 7-5. I think he had them at, and we kind of thought he was crazy, but that was before Gabriel went out. No one's going to care about like what Oklahoma was this year. They're just going to see that win over Oklahoma and be very happy about it. Then they're going to look at Florida State and go, man, you were a 10-win team last year. That's incredible. 10-win team. You should be a top 15 team then. They're going to elevate Florida State quite a bit if they win this game. If you finish the season 9-4, then you're going to say, yeah, it was a nice season. It's a nice bounce back season. But nice seasons don't cut it in Tallahassee. You lost your top coaching candidate. Because if Florida State wanted to make a move, we all know who they were going for. They were going for Deion. And they're going all the way out to Colorado. They're not taking him from Colorado for the next couple of years. I do like the fact that Verse is playing in this game. Jared Verse is playing in this game. 7.5 sacks. It looks like he's going to declare. No one knows for sure 100% on that. I've heard some rumors out of Tallahassee right now that he is getting different reports on where he's going to grade out in his draft stock. Some places, if you look, he's a first-round grade. Other places, he's a day 2 prospect in that second, third round. I would be shocked personally if he wound up being a third-round pick. But, there are people that are paid a whole lot more money than I am when it comes to this. In the end, Fresh, I said 33 touchdowns. 33 is a magical year in Orlando. Why is 33 a magical year in Orlando? That would take us all the way back to 1989. Fresh, you know what happened in Orlando in 1989? Well, that too. But that was Vero Beach. Disney MGM Studios opened up in 1989, and one of the original things was that Disney MGM Studios was going to be the Hollywood of the East Coast. They were going to film there. They were going to have celebrities, and everyone was going to rub elbows with all the hoity-toity people here in Orlando, Florida. Yes, that did not happen out there. Things like World Championship Wrestling was filmed there on their Saturday night main event things. You could take a look at Bette Midler in the Lottery if you ever went to Disney and saw that one. There's a lot of animation there. The best one, though, is this story here, Fresh. I'm a little kid on vacation to Disney World, and this is where I'm going to make my pick. I sat there, and at the time, they were animating Pocahontas. And my father, who was a history teacher, argued with an animator about the historical inaccuracies about Pocahontas, that she was not a grown woman, that she did not fall in love with John Smith, that she was a 12-year-old and she married somebody else here. So, because he argued with that animator, I'm going Boomer Sooners, taking the win, coming into Orlando, and because it's all filled with historical inaccuracies for Florida State in Orlando, I got the Oklahoma Sooners by a touchdown in this game.
So it wasn't just up around the river bend?
No, it was not. And Colors of the Wind and all that stuff was just part of the Disney Renaissance, though. So it's a great time if you ever get a chance. All right, let's move to the next one. Let's move to the Gas Station Bowl. Nope, that's the Valero Alamo Bowl in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, even the gas stations, apparently. All right, this is Texas, which is a 4-point favorite against the Washington Huskies out of the Pac-12. This game is set for a kickoff at 9 p.m. Late kickoff in this game. Michael Penix Jr. versus Quinn Ewers. Fresh, this is one thing that I was really kind of perturbed about over the course of this year. Just because he plays in Washington, no one really gave any love to Michael Penix Jr., what he did this year. We talked about last year what he went to. He came back from that injury. The dude had over 4,000 yards this year and 29 touchdowns. If he plays anywhere else, people are going to be raving about him, falling all over themselves about Michael Penix Jr. What a comeback story he was from that injury in Indiana. Quinn Ewers. Let's talk him for a second. Reclassifies himself. Goes to Ohio State for the year. Takes the money and runs for an NIL deal. Transfers to Texas. Guess who just signed at Texas? Archie Manning. I think, and Fresh, I'm going to go a bold statement here. You ready for this one?
Always. Be irrational.
This is the last game we see Quinn Ewers playing a Texas uniform. This is the last game.
I don't think it's actually a bold statement. I think that's actually pretty... I think it's very factual.
Yeah, I really do not believe that. I believe that by the time spring practice is over, Quinn Ewers will be in the transfer portal moving on. Because, as I explained earlier, what's the one thing that Archie Manning probably has over every other high school quarterback coming in? He has his family heritage. And more importantly, 2 NFL-level quarterbacks teaching the kid how to study tape. One of the big things that most high school kids don't know. Well, let's talk about this game here, Fresh. How do you see the Valero Alamo Bowl going down?
Well, I think the Alamo Bowl is always one of the most entertaining bowl games. People kind of forget about it being down there in San Antonio in Texas, and it's usually a late, 9 o'clock or 8:30 kickoff. You're going to see a lot of points. You're going to see a lot of fun. One year, though, this is a sidebar. One year I want to see Texas and Tennessee play, and the winner actually can claim truly that they are the saviors of Texas and the saviors of the Alamo Bowl, because the whole Davy Crockett, Tennessee guys volunteering to come down and fight in the Alamo Bowl, I think that would be really cool. But back to the game. You're totally spot on about Quinn Ewers and being his last game ever. This actually might impact even where he goes in the transfer portal, because right now he's already behind the 8 ball if he wants to transfer where everybody else is gone. They're starting to fill up spots left and right. I mean, JT Daniels, who, if Quinn Ewers does transfer, might become a JT Daniels-like journeyman quarterback, where you're bouncing around and you're actually avoiding competition, maybe, or injuries are preventing you from being at your full aspect, or just timing. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things going on there that he might not be the guy, and he's just running into situations. But at the bigger schools, you're going to have to compete for jobs, and that means a quarterback spot too. So if Quinn Ewers was playing lights out already in the season, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion as much. But he wasn't 35, 40 touchdowns a year, 4,000 yards passing. He was a guy. This team didn't play for a Big 12 title. He played great in the Alabama game early in the time that he was there, and he got hurt. Maybe that was the difference in that football game. But we never really saw the Quinn Ewers moment, and I think that's why it's even more present that Arch Manning is going to take that job and he's going to run with it. His uncles Peyton and Eli are already preparing up a whole Peyton's Place broadcast, going forward for the future. He's going to be loaded. He's going to be the starter, and I think Sark is actually probably tied more to Arch Manning in his entire tenure at Texas than anyone else. You bring out this guy, you outbid Tennessee, where one of his uncles went. You outbid Ole Miss, where his grandfather and his other uncle went. You outbid Alabama. You outbid Georgia. You outbid USC and everyone else. Like, your career now, Sark, is tied to Arch Manning. So Quinn Ewers, put on a show, do as best you can, and put yourself in the portal. Give your last body of work a pretty good display. Because if not, you're going to go up to somewhere else and just sort of be a retread quarterback until you go pro in a year and a half. So be very mindful, play smart, but don't play uptight, because if you do, it actually might be more detrimental to your development going forward. This is a big game for him. On the other side, you talk about Michael Penix Jr. The kid has been absolutely phenomenal. And I think this is not just a great quarterback play, it's the story. He was so fantastic at Indiana in 2020, almost beat Ohio State, put up a bunch of points, got injured, kind of had a falling out there in 2021, trying to recover, not getting the job, needed a fresh start, went out there. Kalen DeBoer comes from Fresno State up to Washington, and the two of them just click immediately. I don't think we really I think we kind of took it for granted that Washington beat Michigan State. We're like, oh, Michigan State must be terrible. There's no way Washington can beat them. And then Washington starts putting out wins, and they're not just because of defense. They're led because of Penix Jr. He's throwing around a bunch of players that nobody really heard of, and the team was so bad last year that they really didn't expect it. But he pushed this Husky team forward on his arm and his legs, and he has gotten this team playing at a very high level. And he's actually helped running backs like Wayne Talapala, who has been a horse during the final stretch, 779 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns, and receiver Roma Dunzier, who has 70 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns. These guys were no names last year. These guys were maybe no names on the depth chart coming into the beginning of the season. But as Penix has been there, he's made them all better. He's instilled confidence in that offense. And that purple rain, that purple haze has moved forward. When they went to Oregon, most of us thought Bo Nix and the Ducks would find a way to get a win. They were going to churn themselves toward Pac-12 championship appearance and sort of see what they could do from there. We really thought it'd be a fun game, but there's not really a chance that Washington could win. Not only did Washington win, they won by almost double digits, and they put themselves in a great spot. Like Penix Jr.'s done it all himself, and he's done it with a bunch of guys who aren't getting the national attention. And I think that's a credit to him and his work ethic. It's a credit to Kellen DeBoer, the head coach, and it's a credit to the entire program of all stepping up to a different level. I have not seen that same growth and camaraderie and elevated levels from Texas. They had Xavier Worthy. We had him as a first-team All-Irrational Conference player. Bijan Robinson, yeah, great season, but he could have been a Heisman candidate, but never did that. Never had the Heisman moment. The team didn't win enough games. He wasn't really there. He's gone. He's going to the NFL draft. And Ewers, you and Hudson Card came in when you were hurt, but you never had that game where, my God, did Quinn Ewers just throw 500 yards and 4 touchdowns? That didn't happen. You lost. You had a chance for TCU to have a moment, and you blew it. Your offense didn't show up. I just don't have much faith right now in Sarkisian. I don't have much faith in Ewers. You let me down. I picked you guys to be the dark horse to win the Big 12. The offense never showed up. The defense played actually much better than usual, but the offense, which is supposed to be the powerhouse, never showed up. And I just don't have faith that you're going to show up in this football game with nothing really in your mind to play for. You had a top 5 recruiting class. Those guys are going to take a bunch of these guys' jobs. I think the Huskies are much more hungry. They want this game. They have a chance of beating Texas. And they have a chance of really showing that there's not just Oregon, not just Utah, not just USC, not just UCLA in the Pac-12. There's Washington too, and they're back. So I think the Huskies are actually going to Texas, and they're going to beat the Longhorns. Horns down, Huskies win 31-27.
So, Fresh, here's the craziest thing I thought about for this year. Like, we sat there all year long talking about how great of an offense Tennessee was, how great of an offense Ohio State was, how great of an offense USC was, how great Alabama's offense was, Georgia's offense, TCU's offense. Washington's 10-2. They lost, the 2 games that they lost was by combined 15 points. So this is not your average team. They have the 4th best scoring offense in the country, only behind Tennessee, Ohio State, and USC. They have the 2nd most yardage per game behind only Tennessee. And they're the number 1 pass offense in the country this year. They're number 1 passing offense in the country. What in the world were people doing? Like, why is everyone sleeping on this Huskies team? Is it because they played up in Washington? Is it because it was Pac-12 after dark games? Is it because, I don't know, somebody in the athletic department pissed off someone at ESPN for Washington? I don't know. But we should have given more love to Washington. We should have put a lot more respect on the Huskies' name this year. Penix Jr.'s been absolutely incredible this season. I mean, the dudes throw for well over 4,000 yards, which was just unbelievable. They have a 2-headed monster with the rushing attack you talked about. Are they able to, they've picked up 1,700 yards on the ground, so they're not just this, air raid offense. We're going to throw it around for a bunch of yards. And even, like I said, Penix Jr., we're not talking about Tommy Chung, the second coming. We're not talking about Colt Brennan throwing all. You forgot about a little bit Cameron Davis, averaging almost 5 yards carry, 13 touchdowns on him. He's kind of like the grinder where you have Will Tell. I can't even pronounce his last name, like you said. But he's kind of the speed back, it looks like a little bit. Those two guys make a nice little 1-2 punch. But I'm with you on this. I really think Texas is better bring their A game. Bijan Robinson's not playing in this game. Hudson Carr already in the transfer portal. So if Ewers gets hurt in this game or has to come out, like, he better be playing to save his job. Like, he better be coming out here to throw the ball all over the field, because here's the thing. He reminds me a lot of Spencer Rattler. He's reminding me a lot of Spencer Rattler. He's going to have to go to a program like South Carolina, still playing the SEC, but is going to need to pull off some big-time upsets. Is not going to be there. I don't know. I got Washington winning this game. I got Washington on. I would be willing to take Washington on the money line on this one. I'm with you here. I think that people are not respecting Washington at all, and it's going to be horns down on this one.
Well, I think it's a great point you bring up the Spencer Rattler. So when I use JT Daniels, now JT was injured at USC and kind of didn't want to compete, or maybe lost his job after that first one, then had some situations at Georgia and Stetson Bennett beat him out. And then this year struggled at West Virginia at times and didn't want to compete and lost his job, and now he's at Rice. So those are kind of like a combination of maybe some injuries that are just put you in a bad spot, but then also the competition maybe not being the best quarterback on the roster. Quinn Ewers at Ohio State, I think he was not better than C.J. Stroud. Let's just put it that way. Coming to Texas, this is supposed to be your job, but when Card played, I didn't see a difference in either of them playing. Like, there was no that this guy's definitely better than the other, and especially on a team scale, but even a national scale. Like, there was no, wow, that guy's fantastic. I've got to make Texas instant game watch TV. Like, that never happened to me to watch him play. Now with Arch coming, I think the name is going to scare him, and he's going to run like that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, then. But it's interesting, though, because we just had early signing day, and all these people are like, "Oh, we got the number 1 class, or number 3 class, or number 5 class, or wherever your class falls in at." And I go, look at Quinn Ewers, look at Texas A&M. Like, it's great, yeah. You want talented kids coming out of high school, but they're still high school kids. It's difficult to see where they're going to translate from 18 years old to 20 years old, 21 years old, and where they're able to perform. So it's going to be a game that's definitely going to be fun to watch, though. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the Tony the Tiger Bowl. Pittsburgh Panthers versus the UCLA Bruins. This is the Sun Bowl, but it's sponsored by Tony the Tiger. I don't
They're great.
Yeah, there you go. I don't get, like, El Paso, Texas, and Tony the Tiger. Like, is Kellogg's corporate headquarters in El Paso? I don't
It's all
know.
who has the most money, man.
Yeah, but, like,
It's like NIL. It's all who has the most money.
Tony the Tiger, why the Sun Bowl? Like, why the Sun Bowl? Like, I want to know. There's other bowls out there. Why the Sun Bowl?
It's the same thing of why the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. So we got UCLA, and UCLA is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under is set at 54. DTR playing in this game. Zach Charbonnet playing in this game. Jake Bobo playing in this game. Love it. Slovis, transfer porta. Abaconda. I don't know if Abaconda's playing or not. Let me take a look real quick here.
I think he was playing.
Yeah, Abaconda is playing this game. Although Cansey is not, which is smart by him, because I think he's going to be a top 5 draft pick. But let's rock into this game here. The Sun Bowl in El Paso. Talk to me a little bit about this game here, Fresh. I'll just jump into where my pick is. I got UCLA winning. I got UCLA winning big in this game.
Well, this is actually mirror opposites of each other. You have an amazing offense in UCLA and a much better defense in Pitt, and especially a defensive coach. Coaches are the opposite. Pat Narduzzi, hardcore, Midwestern defensive guy. Chip Kelly, flashy, West Coast offense, high profile. And I think that's part of the intrigue of watching this game, is you're going to get a defensive effort who a guy has 4 or 5 weeks to prepare, for DTR and that UCLA offense, and vice versa. It's kind of similar. Not many teams have been able to really contain Tennessee's offense in week two or three, whatever it was. It feels so long ago. Narduzzi and this Pitt Panther defense played pretty well against that Tennessee offense when they were flying high. They had Hooker, they had Hyatt, they had those guys right, and they had them kind of contained. I think you're going to see a very similar effort here from this Pitt defense, where people are already saying, "Oh, you guys are just a program. You guys are slappy. You don't have your quarterback. You're nothing. You're a one-year wonders with Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison." There's pride, and they won 4 straight to end the season. They could have packed it in, but they didn't. They believe in the coach. They believe in each other, and they were led by their defense and obviously Abakanda, who is a running back who's had a great year. But I think this defense will show up in El Paso and make things interesting, because UCLA's defense is atrocious. Atrocious with a capital A. If there's any efforts of that offense that get put up, and maybe Pitt offense can put some points up, you have yourself a ball game, because Pitt's offense, even without Keith Slovis, I got a feeling we'll still put up 24, 27 points against that defense from UCLA. They're nothing special at all. So if you can force a turnover or two, maybe contain DTR, Charbonnet, you have a chance in the football game. You never know. Bowl games are crazy. Who wants it more? UCLA lost. They kind of faded down the stretch. They had chances. The loss at Arizona and then losing that shootout to USC. Yeah, they won the last game of the year versus Cal, but they kind of clunked it down the stretch where they had a chance to really supplant themselves as a national power and returning. So who wants to be here? This is not the bowl game I think UCLA wanted to be in coming, say, November 1st. Here they are. Pitt is probably happy to be in the Sun Bowl. They would have rather been there than playing where Florida played on the 18th of December. You have a game here. I think Pitt is going to play with a lot of energy and a lot of emotion. You're going to see 2 great running backs in Charbonnet and Abakanda.
Abakanda just announced that he's not playing in the bowl game.
Oh, great timing. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, buddy. Yep. Appreciate it. Way to really cut into our breaking news, everyone. It's not happening.
Yep. Abakanda is not going to play in the bowl game.
All right. Scratch that. We're not going to have the great running back matchup. So Pitt now is in a real bad situation offensively, trying to get other guys to play. Perfect timing. This is great.
Sorry about that, but it came across.
Actually, it works out better. I think Pitt's defense will still show up and play with energy. It'll make it a tight football game. If Pitt's offense can get anything going in this football game, any young guys trying to play for, it'll make it a fun event. I think UCLA DTR will will them to a win. Going forward, there's still a lot of holes that Chip Kelly's got to fix on the UCLA defense, but I think they find a way to get a win on the back and legs and arm of DTR. But Pitt's defense will make it an event.
Yeah, DTR accounted for 36 touchdowns on this year. Charbonnet, 14 touchdowns on the ground, almost a 1,400-yard run. Just think about this for a second, Fresh. A couple of years ago, Zach Charbonnet was a Michigan Wolverine. Think about that for 1 second on how loaded that Michigan running back room was 3 years ago, or even if you go back to 2020, right before Charbonnet transferred. It's incredible, and that's the hard thing to ask.
Would Edwards have been the 4th? Edwards he's a sophomore or a freshman. He would have been the 4th. I think he's a sophomore, so he'd been the 4th last year.
Yeah, and so you think about this. My other question is, push comes to shove, would you rather have Blake Corum or Zach Charbonnet? Now most people have they've seen a lot more Michigan. Me and you have watched way more UCLA than a lot of other people. I think that people will think that we're crazy that this is a conversation. I think that I would lean Corum, but it's not a slam dunk. It's not like for sure you want this guy.
Well, I think they're different running backs that bring different assets. And if you kind of look at same thing with Haskins last year and Corum,
I forgot
they each had their positives. They each had their positives. They each had things that you want to see more of, but they fit and they complement each other behind an amazing offensive line. And you can have bigger backs, smaller backs, guys who are more on the perimeter, guys who are more between the tackles. But when they all play together that well,
Mm-hmm.
it makes them all more explosive because the defense is getting hit with different options and different attacks every single time.
Yeah. Well, Charbonnet is 6'1", 220. He a big boy. Also 37 catches out of the backfield. It offers a little bit different of a dynamic that Corum offered for Michigan there. Corum's smaller back, but I also probably think a little more shiftier as well. I don't know. Like, again, I think that it's a fun what if question there, but again, I think
But I think
I
it
lean
brings up a
Corum.
point, though.
Yeah.
It brings up a point where sometimes going the transfer portal is not a bad thing for you.
No.
Because it gives if
Right.
the depth chart is that deep, look at like Jameson Williams on that Ohio State roster, and he went to Alabama.
Yeah.
Charbonnet leaves. Justin Fields leaves Georgia, goes to Ohio. Like there's times where the transfer portal is good. So first of all, fans, I think it's worth saying both. If people transfer, don't be mad at the guy for transferring. If they want to transfer, let them transfer because sometimes it's a good opportunity, but it's up to the player to perform. But let them have that experience. Maybe that depth chart is just so loaded that they know there's not a chance for them to play.
Well, and here's the funny thing. If Charbonnet and Corum both come out for the draft right now, if you are a GM and you're sitting there on day 2 and you need a running back, I would love both of those guys on my team. I really would. I think both of them are tough players. I think Charbonnet is I think he might have a shorter career. I think you can be a little more creative with Corum, but I like both of them. I think Charbonnet was a little bit more built for the NFL, just for that 6'1", 220-pound thing, but both of them great backs. So,
yeah, agree with that.
All right, let's move on to our next game here in Jacksonville, Florida, the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. The bowl where Woody Hayes was fired for punching a Clemson player in the helmet. Again, why would you fire someone for punching a helmet? Come on. All right, this is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish versus the South Carolina Gamecocks. Notre Dame is a 2-point favorite in this game with nobody playing quarterback. I don't know who's going to play quarterback for this game, so there's always that. I've heard that Buckner might be back for this game. They're talking about that. South Carolina, man, coming off of a nice way to end the season, beating Tennessee, beating Clemson. Note, it's kind of like both of these teams had a really nice finish to the year. We had a lot of questions about Notre Dame early on. Mel Tucker. I'm thinking Marcus Freeman there. Struggled early on, but showing that he is the right coach for Notre Dame. You look at everything that South Carolina's got going on. They got boat raced by Georgia, but then finish out the year for them. Interesting game here. I wish more of Notre Dame's players were playing in this game. Michael Mayer obviously not going to play in this game. Isaiah Foskey not going to play in this game. Both first-round draft picks. Obviously, they're going to skip this bowl game. But Fresh, give me something about the Gator Bowl here in Jax.
Well, I think on paper this is the best Gator Bowl matchup we've had in a long time. Two teams that are heading in the right direction, new, younger, fire coaches, programs that are trying to get back to a higher echelon than what they have been. So I think there's a lot of energy in this football game. You're going to see there was already a lot of tickets sold. I got a feeling there's going to be a lot more walk-ups as we go in the next week here before kickoff. And Jacksonville River City is going to be piled in with a bunch of Gamecocks and Fighting Irish fans. This is going to be a pretty cool environment, which sometimes in bowl games you don't get the fan environment where it's not exactly a packed house unless it's a playoff game. So it's really, really cool to see if that happens. Both these teams beat Clemson in the month of November as you move down. So that's just sort of like they got over that hump. Now, obviously, Notre Dame had done that before in the regular season year, but in 2020, they beat them, and they kind of have that more of a constant matchup with Clemson, but in South Carolina being their state rival. But both of them to get it done the same year shows that there's progress being made. Now, obviously, this is not a Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, national championship Clemson football team, but to get over that hump and get that accomplishment and that check that box on your resume is a big deal for both these programs. But with that said, they both also had inexplicable losses during the season. Notre Dame losing to Marshall, which caught everybody off guard. win a couple games, and you lose to Stanford. And then on the other side, South Carolina, I think even on paper at the time of the game, they were better than Missouri, but they just rolled out and got smoked by the team from the other Columbia. And then they go down to Gainesville. And if you guys watch the Las Vegas Bowl, that Florida team's terrible. Even if Richardson plays, I don't think that they do very well. And they got boat raced by the Gators. And then the next week they come in there and they boat race Tennessee, and then they beat Clemson. Like, the players are there, I think, because you don't do those two games back to back off the cuff. Like, there has to be some sort of talent and coaching there. There's players that are wanting to play. They're buying into Shane Beamer. And the same thing with the way Notre Dame finished out. They played well down the stretch. They played they actually gave USC a very good football game in the Coliseum the last week of the regular season. These guys are buying into that program the coaches are selling. So you're seeing talent grow. And I think that's going to be a big thing going forward. Is, people had kind of questions. Was Marcus Freeman truly the guy? Is he better than Brian Kelly? What does he bring to this program? He had a couple years as the DC. He's been coaching around, but really, who is Marcus Freeman as a head coach? The players chewed for him when he got the job. It took him a while to figure out how he wanted to coach it, how to get through it. You have a tough matchup versus Ohio State in the opener. He finally got them moving in the right direction. This actually proves another chance now. Do you win the bowl game? Do you cap it off? Because last year, we all thought, honestly, they were going to beat Oklahoma State. They had the energy coming into that bowl game. They had a huge lead, and then they choked it away in the second half. Can he actually get that bowl game win? Look at Shane Beamer on the other side. You're actually now the hunted, if you will, because you did beat two top 10 teams in a row, 10 this season. Your target squarely on you. I think you're actually the favorite. I haven't looked at the spread, but I would say they're the favorite in this game.
Notre Dame's
so
2-point favorite.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Without a quarterback, that's wow. Okay. I digress. But how do you actually maintain that being the team that nobody expects you to win? Now they expect you to be competitive and win the football game. Where do you hold that standard at now? This is a standard-setting football game for the South Carolina program, because if you lose this game, they're like, well, they pulled off two cute upsets. One was a rivalry game, and one was, nobody expected them to compete. Where do you go from here? You did all that stuff during SEC Media Days. You came in front and had a little video and the whole music video and all that stuff. And where does Shane Beamer take this program going forward? That's what I'm kind of looking at. I'm not looking at the players on the field and who's actually, we have so many guys transferring in. Spencer Rattler, does he really even want to stay for another year? I think he does, even though their offensive coordinator left. Where do the integrity and the core of these programs go forward? Because you had a great season, nice little finish, or is this the next step in those developments of those two coaches, those two player development groups, as we move forward into 2023 and beyond? Notre Dame, top 10 recruiting class. South Carolina didn't have a top 10 recruiting class, but do they find ways to build their programs, build the integrity of what they have? I want to see something from that and how these coaching staffs and how these players respond in this football game. Who wants to compete in Jacksonville on the 30th of December? In the end, looking at past experience, especially last year against North Carolina when they didn't have a quarterback and they ran out receivers and running backs, and South Carolina found a way to get a win, the Gamecocks show up in bowl games. Ask Ohio State, ask Michigan throughout the years. Somehow South Carolina shows up in bowl games, and I think they continue that. South Carolina beats Notre Dame and keeps building off of the Shane Beamer trend going forward, and the Gamecocks get it done.
Yeah, Fresh, it's interesting for this because I was thinking, what does this game mean to both these teams? And Marshawn Lloyd not going to play in this game for them. So it's interesting. Spencer Rattler has done a phenomenal job and really done well late in the season here. I think he definitely comes back for one more year just to maybe boost his draft stock. I know that he was a big name prospect coming out, kind of saved his career and potentially NFL career at South Carolina. Do you strike when maybe your third, fourth round pick right now and come out? Or do you come back in our year, see if you can put some more on tape and elevate yourself to the next level? Because really coming back next year, the conversation is Caleb Williams, and then who else? Like Quinn Ewers, Drake May is only going to be a sophomore. I I don't know. Like that's the JJ McCarthy. He's going to be coming out next year, maybe. So it makes sense to me for Rattler to come back. But I'm gonna float one thing out there to you. Shane Beamer at South Carolina. You see what Georgia's doing. Georgia has a death grip on the SEC East from here on out. Like the SEC East runs through Athens, and if you're gonna even have a chance to get to Atlanta, you're gonna have to go toe to toe with the Bulldogs in Athens there. Then you take a look at what Heupel has done over there in Knoxville with Tennessee. We both think that Tennessee might take a little step back next year, but I still don't see it being like a giant step back. I don't see them slipping all the way down to like a 6-6 or 7-5 thing. I still think that's a 9-3 football team out there, 8-4, 9-3. You look at what Napier just brought in at Florida. What's going on there? What Stoops is doing over at Kentucky with a whole lot less talent. Does the Shane Beamer start to look at what's above him in the SEC East and going, I'm lucky to finish 5th in this conference. But that Beamer last name would buy him a lot of time, and he could be that white knight riding in on the silver horse to Metallica's Enter Sandman at Vitech. I don't know, it's hard to follow your dad, but who better than him?
I like the trend there, and I would be interested to see how in the future. But actually, he said when he started coaching, he didn't want to be in a GA or assistant at Virginia Tech because he didn't want to live on his dad's name. Which no matter what, you're going to live off your dad's name because it's Beamer. But his connection to South Carolina is when he was there under Steve Spurrier, so he actually has deep ties to Columbia, and I think he's fully invested in them. But you know what? In this team where it's transfer portal, there's coaches leaving, you never take anyone's true word for it because money talks. So I think it's something to keep there is money does talk. But it was you kind of figure where can you win quicker though? And I think that's another point where Virginia Tech is interesting because if you finish 5th in the SEC or you have a chance of winning an ACC title,
because sooner or later South Carolina is just going to get over it and they're going to fire you. Being 4th or 5th in the SEC East, they're going to fire you.
There's a phrase that has been said: they will fire you for the reason they hired you. And if you're hired to win certain games, you don't win the certain games. Eventually, your clock hits midnight and you get fired.
Yeah. I'll take Notre Dame in this game. I don't know why. I'll just take Notre Dame just for giggles.
Hey.
Fighting
Drink
Irish.
some Jameson.
Hey, yeah. Seriously, let's pour some whiskey. We should really look at seeing if we could do a live broadcast from that game. That'd be fun. All right, let's go to the Sugar Bowl in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Alabama Crimson Tide are a 6.5-point favorite over the Kansas State Wildcats. 56 points is the current over-under in this game. Alabama is bringing back Will Anderson playing in this game, Bryce Young playing in this game, and that's about it. It seems like almost like I would say, is it the whole offensive line for Alabama is entered into the transfer portal? I think that's what I was looking at. I was like, how many of these guys are entering into the transfer portal? You see all of these guys kind of going away from Alabama. There's a lot of Alabama players entering into transfer portal. A lot of K-State players are playing in this game. The one that shocked me the most, though, was Deuce Vaughn. Like, I'm a little shocked Deuce Vaughn's going to play in this game. I really do like, though. I think Kansas State's here to stay here, Fresh. And I know that they're the underdog, and I don't see Alabama losing this game. I really don't. Like, you're telling me Alabama's going to go 10-3 in a year? Like, I don't believe it. I just can't see it happening. And the Kansas State is already a 10-win football team. So I think Alabama's going to try a little bit harder in this game. But don't get me wrong. Kansas State could mess around and knock them off. But I think that going into next season, Kansas State may be my favorite to win the Big 12 next year. just because they're returning Will Howard. I really like that they're coming back with him. They are going to lose Deuce Vaughn there, but DJ Gittens, the backup running back there, he had some moments where he's looked pretty good at times. He's only a freshman, 6'1", 212 running back there. Had 6 touchdowns on the year, averaged over 5 yards a carry. I like him. I think that there's something there with him. I wish he was a better receiver out of the backfield, but again, he's only a freshman, and we'll see where he develops going into next season. I think there's a lot to like about this Kansas State team. I think that they have a really good foundation that they can build upon for this year. I don't know if that foundation is good enough to beat the Crimson Tide, especially in a place like the Superdome, where Alabama usually plays pretty damn good at. So it's going to be nice to see what Bryce Young's final game under the Crimson Tide is. But I think Alabama's in this weird transition, but we'll see where they come from here. Alabama is always going to be around. They're as long as Nick Saban's the head coach there, I'm not going to doubt Alabama that they're going to figure something out for next year. Is this a one-year aberration? And next year, they're going to still be in the college football playoff. They're still going to, come back and be a very difficult team to beat. I think that they are keeping a lot of receipts from this year and will be cashing those receipts, especially that team in Knoxville. I'm a little bit nervous when you go down to Tuscaloosa next year. I'll make my pick right now. I'm going to take the Tide in that game, and that game's about 10 months away. But Fresh, give me what you're looking at here with the Crimson Tide and the Kansas State Wildcats. You see any way Kansas State wins this game?
Well, I think early on, when there's uncertainty around Bryce Young and Will Anderson, I thought they had a chance. When they both came back, all I saw was angry Bama. This team, if you're two, they're both going to be top 5 picks. I mean, Bryce Young, most likely going to become a Houston Texan, number 1 overall pick if that falls through. They have no reason to play in this football game other than they're angry that they finished the way they finished. And if your 2 stud players are going to show up and play in this football game, everyone who's in that building who's not transferred out is going to be held to a standard. And with transfer portal, and as of ESPN's 300 today, I think they had 12 of the top 30 kids signed. That's ESPN, not anyone else's, but when you have 12 of the top 30 signed, that's not bad. There's players coming back to Tuscaloosa next year in the future. So this is you have a chance to earn your roster spot. Your 2 veteran leaders, one on each side of the ball, are playing. Step up. We're going to go get this done. We're actually going to try to prove that we are, in their minds, one of the top 4 best teams in the country, and they should have been a playoff team. Kansas State played probably their best game of the year, and they still let TCU take them to overtime. I don't know if they can be able to do that. If Kansas State can make this a 4-quarter football game, Coach Kleiman and that entire Wildcat program, you guys are in set for big, big things, and you have earned the respect forever. And actually, maybe people won't be thinking, "Oh, this is an old school Coach Snyder football team like 20 years ago." You guys are actually relevant again. Like, this will be a transition moment for K-State. But I think just Alabama being angry, this will be a moment. The only thing that can stop Alabama from winning this football game big is Bill O'Brien up in the press box calling plays. And if you're an Alabama fan, you probably agree with me that he's the only reason Alabama is where they are right now. And that the only thing that holds them back from beating Kansas State handily. Now, sidebar, if you're going to New Orleans for New Year's, Bourbon Street, it's actually really, really cold. My only time there, we went there for the Georgia-Hawaii Sugar Bowl. You actually pay $10 covers to go in and drink a junky beer for 5 minutes to get warm because it is so cold in that narrow little street where all the wind whips down. But Bourbon Street at night is a lot of fun. During the day, it looks like a bombed out city. But during at night, it's a lot of fun. But be safe, have a good time. A lot of cold there on New Year's Eve, but pretty cool in Bourbon Street in New Orleans for New Year's.
Yeah, that is up there with on the list of do someday, sometime. So Fresh, I just don't see it. I like Kansas State, like I led off with. I like Kansas State a lot. I like Kansas State going into next season. If we were doing a top 25 as of this moment right now, I would have Kansas State in my top 10, and that's without them.
Yeah.
Who else do they pick up? Just because I really like Will Howard coming back next year for them. I think he's going to be a very nice quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the country, but I would definitely be willing to say he might be top 10. I think it's not a stretch.
Not a stretch at all. And we talk about watchability, like players who are playing and making the game intriguing to watch. There's bowl games we're going to be talking about here going forward that probably don't have the same watchability as the Sugar Bowl. Like this game, you actually want to tune in because guys are wanting to play in the football game.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see how this game goes down. So, all right, Fresh, let's go to the one, the only, the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. This game is going to be on the 2nd, not on New Year's Day this year. That's a little weird, isn't it?
Well, the NFL pushes everything off on New Year's Day. I think that's the whole thing. It's a Sunday. The NFL's like, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, 5 p.m. kickoff. The Penn State Nittany Lions versus the Utah Utes. At time of record, Utah is a 2.5-point favorite. Over-under is set at 52 points. Fresh, I think this game right here is the most even matchup of all of bowl season. Like, I know Utah is a 2.5-point favorite in this game. I would put this as a pick'em game. Like, I really would. And maybe you want to go geographical, and Utah is just closer to California. Utah's played in this game twice, or the second time in a row they played in this game. They know the whole procedure. They know how to go through the parade. They know how to go, what it means to go in there. But this is on both of our bucket lists. Like, anyone who ever, like, if you know someone at the Rose Bowl committee, if you guys can get Fresh and I to sponsor a podcast out there, we will do a live record from the Rose Bowl. Like, I don't care who's playing in this game. This is one that me and you like someday, somehow, we have to do an episode from Pasadena. Just to see the sun go down over the mountains at night out there. It's one of the most amazing sights. I love the Rose Bowl. It's the last game of Sean Clifford's doctoral campaign over there in Penn State. Cameron Rising is playing in this game. Unfortunately, he's going to be without Dalton Kincaid, my favorite tight end from this season there. And I know one that you really high on as well. It's interesting because which team is going to see the catapult? Like, this game could be a catapult game going into next year. Penn State, their only 2 losses on the season. Michigan and Ohio State, both teams in the playoffs this year. Now, they didn't play a whole lot else in their schedule. They played a very not great Auburn team. Luckily, you could say, okay, they went into Auburn and won, but Auburn wasn't very good this year. Utah got boat raced the very first week of the season. Well, not even boat race. They played a tough game against Florida in the swamp in early September, which is a brutal place to play in the swamp. Florida's got to go out to Utah next year, which is going to
good luck.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one right there. I don't know, man. I'm so intrigued of this game. Like, defensively, they're spot on. They're, Penn State's allowing 18 points a game. Utah's allowing 20. Penn State's averaging 36 points a game. Utah 40. These two are even teams. I got a little bit more, but I'll flip it over to you and let you roll with it for a little bit.
Well, first off, the whole expanding the playoff out and having to get the Rose Bowl committee to buy into the new bylaws and changes for that. What I think they need to do is just make the national championship game every year the Rose Bowl. Obviously, it won't be New Year's Day. You push it back maybe a week or two, but have the road to Pasadena be the goal for everybody every single year. That they get their one game, it's the Rose Bowl, you're fine. But that setting on the West Coast, the weather's usually pretty good. They can hold over 100,000 at stadium. It's a college football mecca. It would make so much sense because look, we got a national championship game this year in SoFi Stadium, which that's an NFL stadium. Last year was in Indianapolis, which Indiana and Purdue, that's a basketball state. Like, why are we playing a game there? A couple of years ago, they had one in Levi Stadium up in San Francisco. Like, those aren't college football venues. The Rose Bowl is college football. This should be the home of the national championship game every year, and that should be the road. Like, everyone should have that direction to get there. FCS has the road to Frisco to play the ball, get their bowl game there every year. The Rose Bowl should be the national title game every single season going forward. All right, rant over. Back to this game. When you look at it, Utah, Phillips, Kincaid, both out. Your top corner, your top offensive threat on Penn State side. Porter Jr. not playing. Washington not playing. Leading receiver, number one corner, both out. So they have the similarities of the top defender from perimeter perspective and their top offensive threat not playing in this ball game. It was pretty good that you brought up that Utah was here last year. They know the whole routine. They're understanding the pomp and circumstance of everything, whether it's going to Lawry's and getting the prime rib steak dinner and eating the whole thing and all the awe of being out in Disneyland and that whole sort of thing. That's a big deal to make a transition out there. The fans know what to do as well. They understand it. And knowing that when you were there against Ohio State, you competed. You were on the same level and you had a chance to win the football game. You can compete with Penn State this year. You've done it. You beat USC. They were the darlings of the college football there for the month of November. You handle it. You can compete on any field. Having a chance to also avenge last year is a big motivation for Utah because I think those guys who came back, they felt like they probably could have won that ball game. They probably left a little bit on that field. Now they were given a redemption story, and this is their opportunity. I think that gives them a little extra kick because sometimes you get into bowl games like, oh, we were there last year. It's the same whole routine. This isn't the same routine. This is winning a Rose Bowl. That's a big deal. I think having that motivation, understanding the expectations, is going to help them on January 2nd. On the flip side, Penn State, this is your second year or sixth appearance. The first one, they played in the Cotton Bowl. They beat Memphis. They whooped the trash out of them in 2019. But this is a lot bigger deal than that. This is James Franklin, maybe his legacy, because your two biggest opponents are both in the playoff this year in Michigan and Ohio State. As a Penn State guy and as a Penn State coach, you're being viewed on how you compare to them. And if you lose to Utah and they're both playing for potentially a national championship if they meet each other, you're now falling farther behind. You just become another team in the league. You have to win this bowl game to build your own brand of like, hey, we are a championship quality football team for the future. We are doing something here in Happy Valley. Or you're just a football coach and you're just going to win 9, 10 games, but the two games you're going to lose every year are going to be to Michigan and Ohio State. That right there is just going to say you're not the guy to do it. And eventually you're going to be canned. We talked about it earlier. You're fired for the reason you're hired. This is a chance to put yourself in the right direction. Get that legit big bowl win. This isn't winning the Outback Bowl. This isn't winning the Citrus Bowl. This isn't winning whatever. This is winning the Rose Bowl. And that, I don't care who you are, in Big Ten, especially the Big Ten lore, and especially older fan base, winning the Rose Bowl is the most important goal at the beginning of the year. Even go back before the playoff, every single stadium, every single locker room, it's the road to Pasadena. Win the Rose Bowl is your focus, number one overall. It has been like that for over 100 years. You win the Rose Bowl, that is an accomplishment. And if you want to be Penn State, you want yourself on the map and finish in a potentially top 5 finish, this is how you do it. You beat a Pac-12 champion and you get it done. Sean Clifford, you've had a bumpy career. You've been up and down. People have doubted you. This is your one chance to finish on a high note and to play yourself as actually, I am a winning quarterback at Penn State. I am a Penn State legend. If you lose it, you're just another Christian Hackenberg. You're a Trace McSorley. You're a whoever. If you win it, you're a big deal. So wear that badge of honor. Take this very seriously. This is not just like, oh, we're not playing for a playoff where this game doesn't matter. This game should mean almost just as important as playing for a national championship because it could put you individually and your program even at a higher level. In the end, though, I think the Utes' experience and Cam Rising, I think, being the better quarterback, they find a way to beat Penn State. Utah gets it done, caps another magical season, and Kyle Whittingham tells me that I'm an idiot once again and finds a way to really just keep building off a great season after great season.
So, Fresh, here's my only thing with this game here. Penn State came into this year, and one of the things we said at the beginning of the year about Penn State is that a quiet team in Happy Valley is a scary team in Happy Valley. And I think that they proved that. I think that they proved that this season. You're right. They need to figure out a way to get over the hump when it comes to playing Michigan and playing Ohio State. But going into next season, Drew Allar, hopefully I'm saying that right, freshman quarterback from Medina, Ohio. He's going to be the starting quarterback starting next year. Has played very good in some mop-up role for Sean Clifford. Nicholas Singleton may be the best running back in at least in the Big Ten next year. Will have an argument about being one of the better running backs in the country. His running mate, Katron Allen, also a freshman. He's going to have an argument for being that 1-2 punch in Happy Valley next year is scary. This game could be the jumping off point. Most importantly for James Franklin coming out of this game, the country needs to be talking about Penn State. Now, Utah, they can win this game and everyone still would talk about Penn State. What we need to see out of them, if this is another 45-42 classic where it's Utah wins on a late second field goal, where we're talking about it being one of the best Rose Bowl games of all time, I think that would be like the best worst case scenario for Penn State. Utah really wants to be in the conversation here. Yeah, we got a raw deal at Florida. We didn't have our head on straight in the games that they lost this year. I really think that this makes for an interesting conversation because with everything that's going to change within the next 2 years, Utah has USC's number. That's concerning for USC because Utah could be putting themselves. So there's a lot at stake in this Rose Bowl game. It worries me that Kincaid's out. Now, Kincaid didn't play a bunch in that Pac-12 title game. The other tight end, Thomas Yasmin, had a really good game in that one. And I don't know, like, we'll see. I really hope Money Parks, which is not the nickname of our friend, but of an actual wide receiver. Yes, his name is Money Parks. I love that name. Like, that's one of the best names in college football right now. Him and Kool-Aid for Alabama. But other than those two, like, Money Parks needs to be money in this game. I think this is an even matchup. I think it's an intriguing matchup. I think both teams have a lot to play for in this game. Sign me up. The hangover from New Year's Eve. Well, you might be hungover. I'm domesticated still, so I won't unfortunately be able to do those things anymore. But I think that this is going to be a very, very fun game to watch on the second. I can't wait. Like, I really can't wait. And maybe this is a game where if you have an opportunity, make sure that this is must-watch TV to me. If you're going to watch if you're not going to watch the playoff, if you're not going to watch anything else, if you are a casual college football fan and you're saying, well, hey, guys, what's the one football game to watch this bowl season? I would say watch the Rose Bowl. I think you're going to see a great game. I think you're going to see a highly competitive game. Both of these teams are going to really want this. You know what? Give me Penn State. Give me Penn State, even though I think I probably am wrong on this. I think probably Utah. I should pick Utah. I just want to see the freshmen. I want to see the freshmen come in and ball out and look really good. But I think in my head Utah will win this game. But you know what? I'm gonna have some fun with it. I'm gonna pick Penn State.
You know what? First off, just Money Park should be playing in the And One tour or playing Rucker Park. That just sounds like a dude who's just gonna you steps on the court and just gonna make you look like a fool.
We need to start referring to our friend as Money Parks because
Hey, if he wins in Vegas, that's a good name for him.
That's very true. Very true. All right, Fresh. Quick hitters, real quick. Let's do some quick ones here, real quick. We did not hit these games just because of time, and we didn't want this to be a 2-hour episode. But USC 2.5-point favorite against Tulane, over under 62 in the Cotton Bowl. Who you got?
Well, give me Tulane Green Wave. I don't know if Caleb's playing and Addison's already out, and I think Tulane's excited to have the matchup.
Yeah, I think so too. Give me Tulane as well, because I think that 2.5 number is meaning that he's not going to play. All right, let's go to the Citrus Bowl. LSU 14-point favorite versus Purdue. Who you got?
Bayou Bengals by a lot.
You think so? Okay.
No O'Connell, no Charlie Jones. Head coach is gone.
Yeah.
Old Brian Kelly and his family will get it done.
All right. I know who you're going to pick in this one, but we'll do this anyways. Give me the Reliant Quest Bowl, Mississippi State versus Illinois.
Oh, Pirates are going to – this is going to be Captain Jack Sparrow style. They're going to destroy them.
Yeah. Iowa playing Kentucky in the Music City Bowl.
This is 1st to 10.
Over-under's at 31.
Oh, good night.
Wait, hold on. 31 is lower than the Army-Navy over-under. Army-Navy was set at 32.
I think Chris Rodriguez is playing. No Will Levis. Oh, yikes. I'm going to take Kentucky, but I'm going to take the under.
Can Cade McNamara already start for Iowa? I don't know. He's transferring over there. So
that's going to be painful.
Yeah, it is. I'll take Iowa for giggles. I don't even know. All right, and the opt-out bowl. The Orange Bowl, which is Tennessee and Clemson. Basically, no one's playing in this game except for second stringers. Clemson's a 6-point favorite.
Give me Joe Milton and the Volunteers. I think they come out with a little extra fire and take out Dabo and company.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, as much as I hate Dabo, I think that Klubenek is going to play well in this game, kind of show off what he's able to do. So I'll take, and regretfully, because I really do like Tennessee and I like Josh Heupel, as you all know, but I'll take the Tigers in this game. So there you guys have it. That is our Week 3 bowl projections and breakdown of the games. You've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're part of Spinnable Sports, so make sure you're going to spinnablesports.com. Yes, that is spinnablesports.com. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Good Pods, Stitchers, I don't know, all of them, whatever. And just like, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. Leave us that 5-star review, because you guys know Fresh and I were those 5-star prospects. If you're watching this on the YouTube, subscribe to that Spinnable Sports channel. Hit that notification bell, because you do not want to miss our college football preview episode that is coming up for the playoffs. Yep, we are going to break it down, Fresh and I, doing whatever we're going to do with that one. That'll be interesting. But make sure you're right there. We'll send a special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. So special thanks to him. Great job at producing all of this stuff. We're at the very end of college football season, but you guys know we're not done yet. So we got more to do for you, and we'll rock and roll.
Have a wonderful holiday, everybody. Bye, y'all.